An arrogant driver humiliated a candy seller at a traffic light. Months later, he was shocked to see the seller's name in the newspapers. Nicholas, a man of average height with dark hair and tired eyes, reflecting a life of hardship, stood at the intersection selling candies like he did every day. The scorching Oaxaca sun didn't discourage him, but the worry for his sick daughter, Sophia, weighed heavily on his heart. He wore a faded shirt and worn-out trousers, sweat running down his tanned face. Today I need to sell twice as much, he thought, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. If I don't, what will become of my little Sophia? My family depends on this to survive. He tried to keep hope alive as he held the tray of sweets, strategically positioning himself at the intersection and analyzing the drivers' faces with a mix of hope and apprehension. Every time someone looked away or ignored him, he felt a knot in his chest. Despite the oppressive heat, Nicholas didn't stop. He moved from car to car, maintaining a smile that masked his deep worry. He needed to believe that everything would be all right. Sophia needed him. He received a kind gesture from a sympathetic driver who handed him a 10-peso bill. His eyes welled up with gratitude. But as the day wore on, he knew he needed much more to cover the cost of Sophia's treatment. He couldn't go home without enough money. Seeing a mother walking with her happy, healthy children, Nicholas was reminded of what he wanted for his own daughter. Sophia deserved a normal life, to have fun like those children. And for that, she needed her treatment. He just wanted her to have the chance to enjoy life. Adjusting his tray and taking a deep breath, Nicholas fought off the fatigue that threatened to overwhelm him. As evening approached, Nicholas' strength dwindled, but the image of Sophia gave him the energy to continue. He wouldn't give up. Just a few more sales and he could pay for today's medicine. Sophia deserved a fighting chance. The red traffic light seemed to last an eternity as he waited for another customer. He watched people chatting in their cars, oblivious to his suffering. If only they knew what he was going through, he thought, feeling the loneliness of his struggle. When night began to fall, Nicholas was still at the intersection, determined to make the necessary sales. Tiredness and hunger were secondary compared to the need to care for Sophia. He couldn't stop until he had enough. She needed him to be strong. It was a difficult day, but he couldn't give up. He found comfort and hope as the day ended and the cars thinned out. Looking at the darkening sky, he felt a mix of relief and worry. He'd made enough for today, but tomorrow would be another challenge. At least he could buy today's medicine. He hoped tomorrow would be better. As he felt the first drops of refreshing rain washing away the sweat and fatigue of a hard day, he murmured, "Tomorrow will be better." Baltazar, a rigid businessman with a perfectly styled gray hair and an impeccable suit, drove his luxury car through the busy city streets, his light eyes permanently furrowed in impatience. That day, his impatience was heightened. A protest had brought traffic to a standstill. He was trapped, unable to move. He thought these people should find something useful to do, wondering why these meaningless demonstrations always held him up. He had an important meeting, and his time was more valuable than theirs. They should get real jobs. He slammed his hand impatiently against the leather steering wheel, glaring at the protesters with disdain. They were workers demanding better working conditions, something Baltazar couldn't comprehend. To him, hard work was the only way to achieve success, and protests were just excuses for laziness. If they wanted better conditions, they should work harder and complain less. He had a company to run, contracts to close, and no time to waste with these people. The air conditioning didn't seem to be enough to calm his mood. Glancing at his expensive wristwatch, he sighed impatiently, wondering how he could be efficient trapped like this. Wasted minutes could cost thousands of pesos. These people had no idea the impact they were having on the lives of others with these interruptions. He felt sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air in the car, oblivious to the fact that his problems were insignificant compared to those of the protesters. He rolled down the window to try to talk to one of the passing protesters, asking if they had any idea how many important commitments they were disrupting. Did they think that shouting in the streets would change anything? They should get real jobs and they would see results. He was tired of this lack of respect for those who actually worked in this country. The man looked at him with contempt and continued marching. When the traffic finally started to move, albeit slowly, Baltasar took every opportunity to inch forward, his face red with frustration. He needed everyone to know that he didn't tolerate failure. His success couldn't be jeopardized by people who had nothing better to do. The thought of missing the meeting and the possible impact on his business agitated him even more. He had to be on time. He couldn't allow his reputation to be tarnished by a delay. He'd worked hard to maintain his impeccable image. These protesters didn't understand what responsibility was. He had a company to run, and every minute counted. As soon as he could, Baltazar sped off aggressively, leaving the protest behind. But he couldn't stop thinking about the meeting. He needed to make sure everything went perfectly. He couldn't let anything interrupt him. His time was valuable, and every second counted. Wasting time with protests was unacceptable. Even as he mentally reviewed the points he was going to address, his mind constantly returned to the irritation caused by the protesters. They would never understand what it was like to be in his shoes. They would never have to deal with the pressure of keeping a company running. If only they understood the value of hard work and dedication. Maybe they wouldn't be interrupting those who were actually making a difference. Finally reaching his destination, Baltazar got out of the car and straightened his suit, trying to regain his composure. Despite the delay, he needed to enter the meeting with confidence. This meeting was crucial, and nothing could interrupt his performance. Hours later, still irritated from the unproductive meeting and the memory of the protests that had delayed him, Baltazar drove his luxury car through the streets, heading home. The traffic had begun to flow, but he was still impatient, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. Those people should find something useful to do. He'd wasted valuable time today. His time was more valuable than theirs. When the traffic light turned red, he stopped and saw a vendor approaching with a tray of sweets. It was Nicola. Despite his obvious fatigue, he still wore a hopeful smile. "Candies, sir?" he offered, trying to keep his voice steady. "Just a few pesos." Baltazar looked at him with contempt, his face contorted in an expression of disdain. "You think someone like me needs that? Go find a real job, something of value. Throwing sweets on the ground and begging for money is not a worthy job. Aren't you ashamed to be begging in the middle of the street? That's why you'll never get out of this miserable life. People like you don't deserve respect." Nicholas felt his face burning with humiliation as Baltazar rolled up the window in his face and sped off, leaving him behind. Shame weighed down his heart. Why were people so cruel? He just wanted to provide for his family. Didn't this man understand that this job had value too? He muttered to himself, trying to maintain his dignity as cars sped past him. As he drove home, Baltazar couldn't shake the feeling of superiority that enveloped him. He was convinced that his attitude was justified. He'd worked hard to get what he had. These people needed to learn to make an effort. He really couldn't feel sorry for anyone who didn't try. He needed to do better. Baltazar thought, his car gliding smoothly down the road as he tried to justify his cold behavior. Meanwhile, still at the traffic light, Nicola looked at the cars passing by with a growing sense of despair. The humiliation he had just endured stung, but he needed to keep going. He couldn't give up. Sophia needed him. He had to believe things would get better. For Sophia, he had to believe. Straightening up, he forced a smile and offered his candies to the next car that stopped, refusing to listen to cruel people who thought his job was begging. Back at home, Baltazar parked his car in the garage and sat for a moment, reflecting on his day. The memory of Nicholas and his tray of candies still bothered him, but he quickly brushed it aside. He couldn't be distracted by these things. He had an image to maintain. He was in the right. Selling candies was not a real job. These people wanted an easy life and comfort. Turning off the engine and getting out of the car, he told himself he was right as he settled in for the night. At the same time, Nicholas was finishing his long day at the traffic light, counting the few coins he had earned. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Tomorrow would be better. He had to believe that. He would continue fighting to support his family with the job he had, no matter what. As he carefully put away the money, he started walking home, determined to face the next day with renewed hope. The following day found Nicholas back at the intersection with his tray of candies, the same hope and determination burning within him. The sun was still low, but the heat was already building. Today, he needed to sell everything. Sophia needed her medicine, and he needed to believe that things would get better. If he could sell everything today, he could pay for tomorrow's treatment. Focused on his task, he barely registered the group of teenagers that ran past him, laughing and shoving each other, paying no attention to anyone around. One boy with a malicious glint in his eyes pointed at Nicholas and said, "Look at that old man selling candies. Let's have some fun." The other teenagers laughed in agreement, closing in on Nicholas with clear intentions of causing trouble. "Hey, does he really think anyone is going to buy those candies?" One of them sneered, shoving the first boy. Suddenly, one of the teenagers intentionally knocked Nicholas's tray of candies to the ground, scattering them across the street and into a puddle of dirty water. "Hey, be careful! Please stop! These candies are all I have," Nicholas implored. But it was too late. They were all dirty and unusable. The teenagers only laughed harder. "You think someone is going to buy that trash? Maybe you should start begging. At least that way, someone might give you something," one of them scoffed, shoving Nicholas aside as they walked away, roaring with laughter. Staring at the heartbreaking scene, Nicholas felt a lump forming in his throat. He knelt down and tried to collect the candies, but he soon realized it was hopeless. They were all ruined. What am I going to do now? Sophia needs her medicine today to continue her treatment. I need to find a solution, but I'm completely lost, he thought, tears welling up in his eyes as he was overwhelmed by guilt and despair. The teenagers continued to taunt him. "You should get a real job, old man. Maybe you should start begging. At least that way somebody might give you something," one of them said, kicking some of the candies away. "I just want to pay for my daughter's treatment." "Please leave me alone," he begged. But the teenagers showed no compassion. Slowly, Nicholas stood up, trying to think. He knew that staying there feeling sorry for himself wouldn't solve anything, but it was difficult to see a way out. There was no way to save the candies. People continued to walk by, indifferent to his plight. Feeling utterly defeated, Nicholas started walking back home with heavy steps and his head down, leaving the cruel teenagers laughing at him on the sidewalk. "I need to go home. Sophia's waiting for me, and I have nothing to bring her," he thought, his heart heavy with despair. Arriving home, he found Sophia lying down, struggling to breathe. Her high fever had further weakened her small, fragile body. Despair washed over him. "Sophia, my love, I'm so sorry," he said, holding her small hand as tears streamed down his face, feeling helpless in the face of her suffering. "I did my best, but I couldn't get the money for your medicine. Please be strong. I'm here with you, and we'll get through this together." With a weak voice and fever-filled eyes, Sophia tried to comfort her father. "Dad, don't cry. I know you're doing the best you can. I just need some rest and you by my side," she said with a fragile smile. Squeezing his hand with what little strength she had left, she said, "I know you love me, and that's all that matters. I know you would do anything for me, Dad." Sitting beside her bed, Nicholas wept silently, feeling utterly defeated. Sophia's health was deteriorating by the minute, and he didn't know what to do. "I've failed you, Sophia. I should be able to protect and care for you, but I haven't. I wish I could do more, but today it seems like the whole world is against us," he thought, gently stroking her hair, determined not to give up, even when facing so many difficulties. As the night wore on and Sophia's breathing grew more labored, Nicholas held her hand, feeling completely helpless. "I'm going to stay by your side no matter what. I'll never abandon you, Sophia. You're everything to me, and I'll find a way to help you. I just need a little more time," he promised, his voice choked with emotion. He had to keep hope alive, even when all seemed lost. Sophia, sensing her father's love and despair, tried to comfort him again. "Dad, I know you'll find a way. You always find a way to make me smile. I believe in you, and I know we're going to get through this together. I just need you to keep believing too," she said, looking into his eyes, trying to convey the strength she herself was losing. Determined not to give up, Nicholas spent a sleepless night racking his brains for a solution. The next morning, he decided to count what little money he had managed to save. Looking at the meager handful of coins, he felt a surge of despair. This isn't enough to buy more candies. What am I going to do now? Sophia needs those medicines, and I have no way to get the money, he thought, feeling utterly helpless. Sitting at his small kitchen table, he spread out the coins and tried to contain his tears as he desperately searched for a solution. Maybe if I buy something cheaper, like wrapping paper, I could try selling something else. I don't have many options. I need to be creative and use what I have at home. I have to make these coins stretch further than they do now. Looking around his small home, feeling the crushing weight of responsibility, his eyes fell upon his small garden. He spotted the rose bush that he and Sophia cared for with so much love. The roses were lovely and fresh. An idea began to take shape in his mind. Maybe I can sell flowers. People like flowers, especially nicely arranged. I have to try. I can't go home empty-handed again, he thought, getting up with new determination as he headed to the market with the little money he had. With his meager coins, Nicholas bought some wrapping paper. This will have to do. If I do a good job, maybe people will buy the flowers. This could be a way to get the money I need to pay for Sophia's treatment. He clung to this hope as he walked back home. Back home, Nicholas carefully cut the roses from his rose bush and began wrapping them in the paper he had bought. He worked with care and affection, arranging each bouquet attractively. These flowers have to be sold. Maybe this will work. People like flowers, and they might be willing to pay a good price for them, perhaps even more than for candies. At the intersection, Nicola began offering his flowers to the drivers. Fresh flowers, ladies and gentlemen, only 10 pesos each. Give them to the one you love the most. Bring them happiness, he announced enthusiastically, carefully holding out his bouquets. To his surprise, the flowers began to sell well. Within minutes, he had sold half of what he brought. Maybe this would actually work. People seemed to like flowers. If he could sell all of them, he could buy Sophia's medicine that very day. Relief and hope blossomed in his heart. Drivers stopped to buy the flowers, complimenting their beauty and fragrance. Encouraged, Nicola dared to think that he had finally found something that worked. These flowers are beautiful, young man, one woman said, handing him a 10-peso bill. I'm going to take a bouquet for my daughter. She needs a little joy, and these lovely roses can bring her that. Thank you so much, ma'am, replied Nicola with a genuine smile. Every sale brought him one step closer to getting what Sophia needed. Sales continued to grow. By the end of the day, Nicholas had sold all of the flowers. He counted the money with a smile on his face, feeling a joy he hadn't experienced in a long time. He'd done it. He'd sold all of the flowers. Now he had enough for Sophia's medicine. Today was a day of victory. He would overcome this and give Sophia what she needed. With the money from his flowers, Nicholas was able to buy Sophia's medicine and still had some money left over. Seeing a real opportunity to make a living, he decided to buy more flowers. If this keeps going, soon I'll not only be able to buy her medicine, but also make our lives better, he said, tenderly holding her small hand. Within a few weeks, his flower sales grew exponentially. Nicholas could hardly believe the change in his life. The flowers are selling more than I could have ever imagined. I never thought that something so simple could make such a difference. These flowers are really special. They're changing our lives, he thought, arranging new bouquets, filled with profound gratitude. As time went on, Nicholas started to dream of a better future for him and Sophia. If this keeps going, maybe I can even open a little flower shop. All we need is to keep believing and working hard without humiliating or looking down on anyone. He envisioned a more stable future, determined not to let hope die. Sophia, we're going to have a better life. I promise you everything will be all right. Now I have enough to pay for your treatment, he whispered, stroking her hair, certain that they were finally on the right path. Months later, Baltasar stood in the supermarket checkout line, trying to buy milk and bread for his young son, Mateo. When it was his turn, he swiped his credit card, only to hear the cashier say, "I'm sorry, sir. Your card has been declined." His face burned with shame and frustration. "Please try again," he pleaded, feeling panic rise within him. "There must be some mistake. I'm a successful businessman. There's nothing wrong with my card." The cashier tried again, but the result was the same. "I'm sorry, sir. The card is not going through." He looked around and saw the people in line starting to murmur and glare at him with disdain. "I don't have enough cash with me," he said, trying to maintain his dignity. "I'll leave these groceries and come back later." He left the supermarket empty-handed, feeling completely helpless. After dropping Mateo off at school, he decided to go to his company to see if he could get any help. He was met with curious stares and whispers from his employees. What was going on? Why was everyone looking at him like that? He tried to ignore the uncomfortable feeling. When he entered his old office, he found a stranger sitting in his chair. "Who are you? What are you doing in my office?" Baltazar asked, trying to hide the panic in his voice. The man stood up and looked at him with a mixture of pity and indifference. "Don't you know? The company has been sold. You're not the owner anymore." He handed him a document confirming the transaction. Baltazar felt the ground disappear beneath him. How could this have happened? How could he have been so naive? Who did this to him? He built this company from the ground up. Impotent rage coursed through him. Devastated, he left the company without looking back. He walked aimlessly through the streets, feeling completely lost. He thought his money and position would protect him from everything, but now he was alone and had nothing. He had to find a way to provide for his wife and son. He wouldn't let them suffer because of his mistakes. Arriving home, the sight that greeted him stopped his heart. The apartment was completely empty. All of the furniture, belongings, even Mateo's clothes were gone. Stunned, he saw a hastily scribbled note on the table. With trembling hands, he picked up the paper and read, "Baltazar, I'm leaving. I'm tired of this life, and I took everything I could sell. I can't stand living with you anymore. Taking care of Mateo is exhausting. I can't stay here and live like this. You're on your own now. Goodbye." A wave of despair washed over him. She'd taken everything. There was nothing left. How was he going to take care of Mateo now? Why did this happen? How could he have been so blind? How could she have abandoned them like that? Hours later, when he picked up Mateo from school, the boy was scared when they arrived home. "Dad, where are my things? Why is our apartment empty?" he asked, his eyes filled with confusion and fear. Baltazar knelt beside his son, trying to stay calm. "Son, our situation has changed. We need to be strong. I promise you I'll find a way to support us and get our things back. I know you don't understand now, but I'm here with you, and we'll get through this together," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The following days were the most difficult of his life. He tried everything to earn some money, but bills were piling up, and the pressure mounted with each passing day. He needed to find a job, but who would hire someone in his situation? He was once a respected businessman, and now he was begging for a job. As he scanned the job listings in the newspaper, he remembered the days when he used to humiliate people like Nicola. He never thought twice about looking down on people who were struggling to survive. Now he was one of them. One afternoon, as he was walking through the park with Mateo, Baltazar ran into a former colleague. "Baltazar, what happened to you? I heard things weren't going well," the colleague said with a look of pity. Feeling humiliated, Baltazar replied, "My life has been turned upside down. I'm trying to find a way to support my son, but it's difficult." The colleague sighed and said, "You were always a man who looked down on others. Maybe this is a lesson for you to learn something from this." Days turned into weeks, and the pressure continued to mount. Baltazar knew he needed to find a solution quickly before he and Mateo were left with absolutely nothing. "Mateo, my son, I promise we're not going to stay like this forever. I'm going to find a way out of this. I'm going to fight for us no matter what," he said, looking into his son's eyes, feeling his determination grow. Finally, on a lonely night, he made a decision. "I can't go on living like this. I need to find a way to support my son," he thought, as he watched Mateo sleep peacefully. "I'm going to swallow my pride and do whatever it takes to get us out of this situation." He felt a new determination rising within him. "I promise you, Mateo, everything will be all right. I'll find a way to provide for us no matter what I have to do." On a cold gray morning, Baltazar left the house, a mix of hope and desperation swirling within him. He needed to find a job, anything that could bring some income for him and his son. Mateo needed him, and he needed to find work quickly. He couldn't let his son go hungry. Today had to be different. He needed to find a solution. As he walked through the streets of Oaxaca, he scanned the shop windows and job postings. While walking through the central plaza, something caught his eye. On one of the park benches was a newspaper with a headline that read, "From candy seller to successful businessman, the story of Nicholas." He stopped short, his heart pounding. It was the man he had humiliated at the traffic light. A mixture of surprise and regret washed over him. He couldn't believe Nicholas had such determination and ability. He'd done what Baltazar had always believed impossible. He sat down on a nearby bench and began to read the article. The story detailed Nicholas's journey, from his difficult days selling candies at the traffic light to his decision to sell flowers, which eventually led him to open a successful flower shop. Every word felt like a stab in the chest. While I was looking down on him and humiliating him, he was fighting to improve his life and his daughter's life, and he succeeded. I was so arrogant. I judged him without knowing his story. He felt the bitter sting of guilt, tears threatening to fall. The article went on to reveal how Nicholas transformed his small flower shop into a thriving business and was helping other people in situations similar to what he had once faced. Not only did he improve his own life, but he also improved the lives of so many others. What irony! I, who always thought I was superior, am now at rock bottom, while he is at the top. If he could do it, maybe I can find a way to get back on my feet. He felt a mix of envy and admiration for Nicholas. Closing the newspaper, he stared at the horizon, reflecting on his life and choices. He had always thought that his money and position would protect him from everything, but true strength was found in determination and the ability to reinvent oneself. He needed to learn from Nicholas. He needed to find that strength within himself. Determined to change, he started thinking about ways to rebuild his life. Maybe I can start small like him. I need to find something I can do with the few resources I have left. I can't give up now. Matteo depends on me. Maybe selling something on the street will be a start. I have to try. His determination grew, and he got up from the bench with renewed purpose and confidence. As he walked back home, he reflected on his life and the choices that had brought him to this point. He knew that he had a lot to learn, but he was determined to change his ways and create a better future for himself and Matteo. Baltazar thought, I always thought I was better than everyone else because of money, but now I see that true wealth lies in resilience and the ability to rise after a fall. I need to be an example for Matteo. Show him that we can overcome any adversity. For the first time in a long time, he felt humbled. Arriving home, he found Matteo playing on the floor with some toys that had been donated by neighbors. Dad, did you find a job? The boy asked, hope shining in his eyes. Baltazar smiled, even though his heart was heavy. Not yet, son, but I found inspiration. We're going to get through this together, I promise. You'll see. We'll get our life back, and it will be even better. He felt the sincerity in his words as he hugged his son tightly. That night, as he watched Matteo sleep, Baltazar made a silent promise to himself. I'm going to change my life and my son's life. I'll work hard, just like Nicola did. I'll prove I'm capable. Tomorrow is a new day, a new opportunity to start over. I'll find a way to support us, no matter what I have to do. He felt an unwavering determination. He would not let the past define his future. The next day, he woke up with a new perspective. He got up early, made breakfast for Matteo, and began to plan his day. I need to find something I can sell, something people want to buy. Maybe I can start with something small, like flowers or food. I need to be creative and resilient, like Nicholas. His motivation grew as he sipped his coffee. He left the house with Matteo, determined to find a new opportunity. As they walked through the streets of Oaxaca, he carefully observed the shops, markets, and people around him. He thought, each of these merchants started somewhere. I can start too. I just need a chance. Come on, son, he said to Matteo, holding his hand, feeling more confident than ever. Today is the first day of the rest of our lives. We're going to find a way to change our destiny. Desperate for money, Baltazar got the idea to start selling candies at the same traffic light where he had humiliated Nicholas. Every day he stood there with a tray of candies, trying to attract the attention of the drivers. He thought, I never thought my life would take this turn, but I need to keep trying. Matteo depends on me. As cars drove past without paying attention to him. One day, as the scorching sun beat down on him, Baltazar saw a limousine pull up to the light. Accustomed to approaching more modest cars, he hesitated for a moment, but his need overcame his pride. Would you like to buy some candies, sir? I need to sell these candies. Every sale is crucial for me. Would you like one? He asked without looking up. his voice filled with desperation and humility, trying not to let the shame overwhelm him. The limousine window slowly rolled down, and he saw a familiar pair of eyes. It was Nicholas. Balthazar immediately recognized the man he had humiliated months before. Shock hit him like a punch in the stomach, and he fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't know if you remember me, but I want you to know I was a fool to you in the past. I've lost everything, and now I understand what you were going through. I'm here, trying to survive, just like you did," he began, his voice breaking with emotion. "Excuse me, do you know who I am?" asked Nicola, his voice filled with surprise and a touch of disbelief. "I'm Nicholas, the man you humiliated at that traffic light months ago, the one you told to get a real job. Do you really remember me now?" he continued, his eyes fixed on Balthazar. Still kneeling, Balthazar stammered, "Yes, Nicholas, I remember you. I'm Balthazar, the man who treated you so badly. I humiliated you without knowing your story, without knowing what you were going through. And now, ironically, I am in your shoes. I lost everything. My wife betrayed me, took all my money, and left me alone with my son. I'm struggling to keep us afloat, to give him a chance at a better future. I know I have no right to ask for anything after what I did," he continued. "I judged you. I humiliated you without understanding your struggles. Now I'm living the same difficulties that you faced, and I see how cruel and arrogant I was. I never imagined I would one day be in your place, feeling the same pain, the same desperation. These past few months have shown me the true meaning of resilience and determination. I saw your story in the newspaper, how you managed to get back on your feet, transform your life, and help so many other people. You are an example, Nicholas. I never imagined that someone I looked down on so much could have such incredible strength. Every day I'm here, selling candy at this traffic light. It reminds me how unfair I was to you, how wrong I was to judge you without knowing. Now I'm paying for my mistakes, and all I can do is ask for your forgiveness. I understand if you don't want to forgive me. I understand if you turn your back on me and move on with your life, because I don't deserve anything from you. But I want you to know that I deeply regret it. I regret every cruel word, every arrogant gesture. I see in you the person I want to be, someone who overcomes adversity with dignity and strength. I want to learn from you, Nicholas. I want to find that strength within myself to be a better father to my son, to be a better person. I'm not asking for charity or pity. I just want a chance to make things right, to show that I can change, that I can be someone worthy of respect. Nicholas, you showed me that it's possible to rise, that it's possible to transform pain into strength. I want to follow your example. I want to prove to myself and my son that we can overcome anything. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm here on my knees, begging for your forgiveness." Nicholas looked at Balthazar, a mixture of emotions swirling within him. The man who was once the personification of arrogance and disdain now stood before him, vulnerable and repentant. "I never thought I'd see you like this, Balthazar," he said. "Your humility now shows me that you have truly understood what it means to struggle for survival. Maybe we all deserve a second chance." Still emotional, Balthazar continued, "I can't change the past, but I can fight to build a better future. I want to be someone my son can be proud of, someone who makes a difference, just like you did. Nicholas, please forgive me." Nicholas, feeling the weight of Balthazar's words, knew that forgiving him would not be easy, but he also knew that life was made of second chances. "I won't say it's easy to forget what you did, Balthazar, but we all make mistakes. Let me see your candies. I'll buy them all." "We all deserve a chance at redemption," said Nicholas, handing Balthazar a large bill and taking all of the candies. Balthazar took the money, feeling a mix of gratitude and shame. "Thank you, Nicholas. I'm going to prove to you and to myself that I'm capable of change, of becoming a better man. I know it will take time to rebuild my life, but I'm determined to do it for me, for my son, and for the respect I now have for you," he said, looking into Nicholas's eyes. Nicholas closed the limousine window, leaving Balthazar with newfound hope. As the car pulled away, Balthazar felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He knew he still had a long way to go, But this encounter with Nicholas gave him renewed hope. This experience could teach him more about humility. He thought, it's no coincidence that I'm here, in the same place where Nicholas stood. I needed to go through this to understand more, to realize that every job can be important, that we should value everyone's effort, even the simplest. He felt a new determination to change his outlook on life. On the way home, Balthazar was still lost in thought about his encounter with Nicholas. Nicholas's words resonated within him, bringing a mixture of hope and remorse. I really need to change, for me and for Mateo. This is my chance, he thought as he walked through the darkened streets of Oaxaca. Suddenly, a loud metallic crash caught his attention. Turning a corner, he saw Nicholas's limousine mangled in a serious accident. It was smashed against a pole, and smoke was starting to billow from the engine. Without hesitation, he ran toward the vehicle. "Nicholas, are you okay? I need to help you. Please, hold on. I know how to give first aid. Please hold on," he shouted, panic rising in his chest as he struggled to open the car door. Finally, he was able to pry the door open. He saw Nicholas unconscious with a deep gash on his forehead. "My God, Nicholas! Don't leave me now. I have to stay calm. I need to remember what I learned in the Scouts," he thought as he carefully pulled Nicholas out of the car. He laid him on the ground and started assessing his injuries, his hands shaking. "Breathe, Nicholas. Please stay with me," he said out loud, feeling the urgency of the situation. Using his shirt to apply pressure to the cut on Nicholas's forehead to stop the bleeding, he checked his breathing and pulse, remembering the first aid techniques he had learned years ago. "You're going to be okay, Nicholas. I won't let you die here. Somebody call an ambulance, quickly," he yelled to the onlookers who were gathering around the scene. "Nicholas, I need you to be safe and sound. I won't let this end like this," he whispered as he continued to administer first aid. The minutes felt like an eternity, but finally he heard the sound of sirens in the distance. Nicholas was starting to regain consciousness. "Balthazar? You are here? You helped me. You saved me," Nicholas murmured weakly, his voice confused. "Yes, Nicholas, I'm here. I'll stay with you. Just hold on. Help is on its way. You need to hold on, Nicholas. You are strong. You're going to get through this." He felt a wave of relief, mixed with tension, as he maintained pressure on the wound. When the paramedics arrived, Balthazar quickly explained the situation and what he had done so far. "He has a deep cut on his forehead, but I managed to stop the bleeding. He was unconscious, but he's starting to wake up now. They need to get him to the hospital as soon as possible. He needs urgent medical attention," Balthazar said, relieved to be handing Nicholas over to the care professionals. As the paramedics were preparing Nicholas for transport, Nicholas gripped Balthazar's hand tightly. "Thank you, Balthazar. You've really changed, and now I see it clearly. You saved my life. I'll never forget this." His voice was weak but filled with emotion, his eyes full of gratitude. Tears of gratitude streamed down Balthazar's face as he was moved by the trust Nicola had placed in him. "I only did what I had to do, Nicholas. I treated you badly, and now I'm trying to redeem myself for my mistakes." Balthazar watched the ambulance drive away, feeling a mix of relief and determination. This was a turning point in his life. "I did it. I did something right. I can change." He felt lighter than ever as he walked back home. When he got home, Mateo was already asleep. Sitting beside his son's bed, he felt a new hope growing within him. "Son, I did something good today. I saved a man's life, and that showed me I can be a better person. I'll be a better example for you, and I'll never be the man I was again. I promise." He tenderly stroked Mateo's hair. "Tomorrow is a new day, a new opportunity to start over. I'll do everything I can to give us a better life." His heart was filled with determination. That night, Balthazar slept with a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. He knew the road ahead would be long and arduous, but he also knew that he had the strength and determination to face any challenge. "I can change, and I will change, for me and for Mateo." He knew the future was full of possibilities. After recovering in the hospital for a few days, Nicholas was finally discharged. The first thing he did was go to the traffic light, where he knew he would find Balthazar. He needed to address this matter in person, away from the controlled environment of the hospital. "I need to see Balthazar. He saved my life. Everyone deserves a second chance," he thought as he went to the intersection. Baltazar was at the traffic light, as usual, selling candies to the drivers who stopped. When Nicholas approached, Baltazar was busy trying to sell candies to a hurried driver. Seeing Baltazar's efforts, Nicholas felt a wave of compassion and respect. "Baltazar," he called, getting Baltazar's attention. Baltazar turned, surprised to see Nicholas out of the hospital. "Nicholas, are you okay? How are you feeling?" he asked, genuinely concerned. Nicholas smiled slightly. "I'm fine, Baltazar. Getting better every day thanks to you. I wanted to see you to talk about something important. I want to offer you a fresh start. You showed me that you are capable of change, and I believe everyone deserves a second chance. I wish someone had given me one while I was still struggling to survive," he said, his tone friendly. He watched Baltazar's expression change from surprise to hope. Baltazar took a deep breath, absorbing Nicholas's words. "A chance?" "Nicholas, I don't know how to thank you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to prove that I can change. I promise I'll do my best, and I won't let you down." Tears of gratitude welled up in his eyes. Nicholas nodded, an encouraging smile spreading across his face. "I believe in you, Baltazar. I want you to start working at my company. It won't be a high position, but it's a start. You'll start as an assistant, helping with administrative and sales tasks. It's an opportunity for you to prove your worth and, who knows, grow in the company." He made it clear that Baltazar's journey was just beginning. Baltazar felt a wave of emotion wash over him. "Thank you, Nicholas. I'll accept this opportunity with all my heart and work hard to deserve it. I promise I'll do my best, and I won't let you down," he said, firmly shaking Nicholas's hand, determination growing within him. This was the opportunity he'd been waiting for. A new sense of purpose was taking shape. In the following days, Baltazar started working at Nicholas's company. At first, he was assigned to the simplest tasks, but he tackled them with enthusiasm and determination. "Every day is a new opportunity to show my worth," he thought as he organized documents and assisted with sales. Nicholas closely supervised his progress. "You're doing great, Baltazar. I see that your dedication is genuine. If you keep this up, there is a lot of potential for you to grow here," he said one day as they reviewed the sales reports. He was happy with his decision to give Baltazar a second chance. "Believe in yourself, and doors will continue to open." He recognized Baltazar's hard work and transformation. Over time, Baltazar's dedication started to pay off. He took on more responsibility and demonstrated a natural ability to deal with customers and close sales on large flower orders for weddings. "I never thought I'd be able to do this, but here I am, learning and growing every day. I can do this. I'm capable of change and of building a better future," he thought, feeling a new confidence blossoming within him. Watching closely, Nicholas felt a deep sense of satisfaction. "Baltazar, you have truly transformed. I'm glad I gave you this opportunity. Our partnership is just beginning. Let's keep growing and making a difference. Together we can achieve great things," he said one day as they toasted another success. He felt the strength of their friendship and partnership. And so, Baltazar and Nicholas began a new phase in their lives, based on respect, personal growth, and friendship. Together, they showed that life always offers second chances to those who seek redemption and are willing to work for it. Their partnership became an example to everyone around them, demonstrating that with determination and mutual support, it is possible to overcome any adversity and build a bright future.